Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're basically going to perform a much-needed software update on your brain. We all have one, right? An internal operating system that, well, occasionally runs on some pretty faulty programming, usually fueled by our subconscious biases. So today, we aren't just sitting around talking about the fact that biases exist, we are actively doing the work to fix them.
So here is the game plan for our system update today. We're going to cover your mind's faulty programming, detecting triggers, challenging beliefs, logic and echo chambers, the 8 common biases, and finally, achieving mental liberation. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Your mind's faulty programming.
To actually fix the system, we first got to understand the hardware. Think of your subconscious mind like this incredibly efficient but severely outdated operating system. It relies on deeply ingrained cognitive shortcuts built from your past experiences, shortcuts that ultimately end up distorting reality. To counter this, we're going to walk through a specific 6-step reprogramming sequence. You can really think of this process as a direct assault on that faulty programming. By following this sequence, you stop letting past judgments or hidden fears completely cloud your view. The ultimate goal here? Expanding your reality to match the actual world rather than shrinking the world down to fit your mind's old rules.
Moving on to Section 2. Detect and unearth triggers.
The tricky thing is, biases don't come with a pop-up warning label. Instead, they show up as what we call bias triggers. Basically, these are subconscious mental shortcuts, signaling some kind of inner resistance. You'll usually feel it as an unexplained sense of irritation, a really quick snap judgment, or just a sudden feeling of dismissiveness. For instance, if you read a headline about a specific social group or a political party and you instantly feel angry before even reading the actual article, yeah, that is a trigger. It's your subconscious signaling a pre-programmed judgment. It's just running on autopilot.
So how do we get control back? You have to become a detective of your own mind. By using some mindful tracking techniques, you can start to spot those automatic reactions. Like, if you see a really loud child in a cafe and instantly think, ugh, those parents have zero control, well, that's a snap judgment. Practice mindful observation in those moments. Pinpoint the internal judgment and intentionally force a mental pause. That brief pause is literally your window of opportunity to interrupt your mind's autopilot and choose a much better reaction.
Now, once you detect a trigger and hit that pause button, you move to the second step of the process. You have to unearth its origin story. Ask yourself, where did I first learn this belief? Because biases aren't inherent. They're learned defense mechanisms. You really need to dig in and find the exact moment or environment in your past that installed this specific mental shortcut in the first place.
Let's look at how this plays out in real life. Take the vulnerability bias. If a child was ridiculed for showing emotion, their subconscious codes the rule that vulnerability equals threat. Fast forward to adulthood, and they might unconsciously dismiss anyone who tries to open up to them. Or take the authority bias. If someone was taught that authority figures must absolutely be obeyed without question, their subconscious codes power equals truth. By identifying these origin stories, you can actually rewrite the code. You get to show your brain that these outdated conclusions just aren't needed to keep you safe anymore.
Section 3. Challenge your own beliefs.
It's no secret our brains absolutely love comfort. When we're confronted with information that challenges our views, our subconscious defaults to aggressively defending its position rather than just processing the new data objectively. To break that kind of mental rigidity, you have to play devil's advocate. Take a deeply held conviction you have, set it aside for a second, and state the opposing viewpoint as if it were pure fact. Then, force yourself to articulate at least 3 valid, logical reasons for that opposing view. Now, you aren't doing this to necessarily change your mind. Actually, it's more about building cognitive flexibility. You're teaching your brain how to safely entertain different realities.
And while you're doing this exercise, pay really close attention to how you feel. Emotional resistance during this mental wrestling match is a powerful indicator. If you resort to sarcasm or you feel this intense frustration just trying to formulate the other side's argument, that means your belief is built way more on emotional programming than on a foundation of solid facts. Just acknowledging that discomfort is a huge step forward.
Section 4. Logic and echo chambers.
So a crucial point in updating your mental software is catching how bias sneaks in through double standards. This is honestly one of the most insidious ways our faulty programming operates, because double standards silently erode your objectivity and can seriously damage relationships. We just seamlessly excuse our own flaws while harshly judging others for the exact same things. Think about it. If you speed on the highway, well, it's because you're in a hurry. But if someone else speeds, they're a reckless menace. To fix this, we apply the universal logic test. Before judging, ask yourself if you'd use the exact same standard for a stranger as you would for your best friend, or for yourself. If the answer is no, boom, you've just caught a double standard red-handed.
Another way our logic gets totally compromised is through echo chambers. Biases absolutely thrive in these environments. If we only ever consume information that validates what we already believe, we trap ourselves in a self-perpetuating loop. And this leaves our minds intellectually fragile, super resistant to new ideas, and highly emotionally reactive when we finally do bump into a different perspective.
You have to actively break this loop. First, identify your echo chamber. Take a hard look at your news feeds and the people you follow. Then, deliberately select a source that's outside your comfort zone. Engage with a diverse or opposing news outlet for just 15 to 20 minutes a day. The trick here is don't argue with it in your head, just listen to understand. This simple practice trains your subconscious to process new information without immediately triggering a threat response. It builds incredible cognitive resilience.
Section 5. The 8 Common Biases. All right, now that you have the tools to uncover triggers and break out of echo chambers, let's deploy them against some of the most common cognitive distortions we see every day. First up, affinity bias. That's when we prefer people who are similar to us. You can course-correct this one by forcing yourself to use objective criteria in your decisions rather than just going with your personal comfort. Then there's attribution bias, where we overcredit personal factors. Fix this by actively asking what external influences might have played a role. And for confirmation bias, where we only look for supporting evidence. The correction there is to actively and deliberately seek opposing data, just like we discussed with the echo chamber exercise.
Continuing down the list, we have conformity and perception biases, which involve blindly following the herd or relying heavily on stereotypes. But I want you to look at the halo and horns effects. This is when one single positive or negative trait completely overshadows everything else about a person or idea. You can neutralize these effects by consciously forcing yourself to evaluate the full picture. Break the person or the idea down into multiple factors, instead of letting one single trait dictate your entire judgment of them.
To make all of this actually stick, you need to practice. Throughout your day, try doing the spot the bias exercise. When you notice a reaction, name the bias. Then ask yourself, how would this situation play out differently without bias? Finally, apply the course correction. By daily tracking your triggers and mapping out those corrections, you're turning abstract psychology into a concrete, solvable, and repeatable habit.
Section 6. Achieving Mental Liberation.
As we wrap up this explainer, it is vital to remember that your biases aren't moral failings. Not at all. They're simply inherited, outdated programming. And the truly beautiful thing is, you now have the administrative access to actively audit and rewrite that code. Let's just quickly summarize the update we've installed today. We started right at the beginning by acknowledging our flawed mental hardware. Then, step 1, we learned to spot our inner resistance to detect triggers. Step 2, we acted as detectives to reveal their origin stories. Step 3, we played devil's advocate to challenge our own rigid beliefs. Step 4, we applied universal logic to spot sneaky double standards. Step 5, we deliberately disrupted our echo chambers. And finally, Step 6, we targeted the 8 common biases head-on. By systematically following this sequence, you make the jump from a reactive, biased mind to a conscious and liberated one. You stop fighting the world, and you start actually understanding it.
Which brings us to our final thought. Now that you know for sure that your mental shortcuts are flawed, the choice is entirely yours. Are you going to continue building your life, your decisions, and your relationships on an outdated operating system? Or are you ready to rewrite the code, apply the update, and finally see the world exactly as it truly is? Ask yourself, what will be the very first line of outdated code you choose to rewrite today?